Testing one, two, three. Okay. Da, 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 da. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and welcome to day two. Yeah, welcome to day two. Uh, we had an incredibly exciting day yesterday getting started, playing with some technical issues as always. That's the fun part about doing these stuff like this. So we're trying a new setup today. Hopefully I'll be able to see and comment more with people. And letting everyone know what is on our schedule for today. We have several people coming up. We have my good friend Mr. Lamont Logan Russ coming on first, and hopefully, if all goes well, we're going to be doing a live session around 11 a.m. That's Eastern Standard Time with Mr. Chris Georginas. And when we get back from lunch, we'll take lunch around noon. We'll be talking with Mr. Tony Grillo, followed up by Mr. Charlie Folks. And closing out today will be Miss Sharon Coleman, who I keep misspelling her name. It's Colman. And my apologies, because sometimes I'll send out an email or post something and it's like, crap, I misspelled it again. So I am apologizing publicly. Sorry about that, Sharon. But yeah, the cool thing about the summit, it's getting to chat with a bunch of people who I am fans of, and to, I guess, kind of play around with the joking part of it. Mark Simon always teases me because I'm just kind of hanging out or talking with people and asking questions that I want answers to. And pretty much that is true. But I wanted to do the summit, I think, for, I don't know. I remember the show, there was something called Movie Magic. And so there's a behind the scenes where they showed, like, I think like when the first Independence Day came out. So they were showing how they blew up things and made a miniature at the White House and all this other fun stuff. So it's like, how do you do all of that stuff, and how do you make sure that it's working? Okay, that's cool. Okay, hello all. Great. Why does that look different? I need to work on those. Not bad. So I am getting comments today. This is cool. Hey, Darren. Good morning, good morning. What I need to work on, what I'm trying to figure out, I finally got my, what is that called? My, um, I'm going to get words here. I got the, I have my comments showing up, but where the hell are the backgrounds? I need to work on that. Shout out to, what's it called? Oh yeah. So I'm playing around with how am I even running this darn thing? I'm using a piece of software called Ecamm Live, and usually it's I'm using it in conjunction with Restream.io, but from the looks of it, Ecamm Live has actually updated some things since last year, and uh, it seems. Hold that thought. What am I hearing? I have my phone on in the background, and it's like, dude, how about we not do that? So I'm like hearing, it's like, who's talking? But it's me. Okay, so basically, Ecamm Live updated their software. So in theory, I should be able to I only have to use one of these now. As soon as I can get it to work. Nice, nice, nice. Great show. Thank you. I appreciate it. What if I can't take two? Like, awesome, awesome, awesome. Tyler Rickshaw, cold waffles, dude. I was taking a peek at your LinkedIn. I'm gonna have to go and take a look at your animations. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so that seems to be working right. I haven't seen any comments come in yet. These are all YouTube comments, so I haven't seen any come in yet from LinkedIn. I'll see how that works out. Um, anyway, so where we were leaving off yesterday, I was working on building out. What is that thing called? Working on building out the rig for. There's a lesson's not the word. There is a workshop that Tony White and I are going to be doing live. And it's an exclusive workshop, so you can't sign up for it anywhere else other than pledging on Indiegogo. And let me see if I can bring it up. I hate that font. So, uh, basically on Indiegogo, I think that'll work better. Did we do bold? Maybe medium. But on Indiegogo, we are funding Tony White's project, the app Drawtastic. So it's a 2D animation app. So imagine everything from the past to present, things about animation or 2D animation, and even future stuff. So being able to access that on your phone, whether it's Android or Apple, iOS, one of those things, Android or iPhone, as well as desktop. Uh, so being able to look up things about walk cycles, arcs, whatever, and study it. And it's not software specific, it's strictly about animation. Are there going to be things in there about software? Yes. Are there free classes on this app? Yes. Are there paid courses on this app? Yes. So we are in the process of raising funds for it. When I checked this morning, I want to say that we are just shy of the halfway point of getting to 3K. Um, and it was something weird. I want to say it was like maybe $60 away from getting to that 1500. So one of the rewards is a digital copy of Tony White's I think it's Tony White's first book, The Animator's Workbook, which is incredible. It's the first book I remember purchasing, and you can get a digital copy of that because it's out of print. So a $10 donation will get that. So imagine if 6 people did that. That'd be kind of cool. That would get us to the halfway point. If you just want to get a thank you or a shout out, like a $5 donation, we'd need, what is that, 12? I guess my math is good on that. Anyway, so we're trying to see if we can get people to help us get there. We only have like, I think, 20 days left. And to reach that final, well, it's not a final, but to reach 3K. And in that way, we'll work with Indiegogo to keep it ongoing, because the overall amount we're trying to raise is about 5 times that amount. But we have to get the initial amount to show Indiegogo we're serious. So, and where does the money go? It actually goes to paying for the behind the scenes, the people that are running and keeping the app up to date. as well as getting some of the courses on there. So yeah, I think it's a really, really awesome project. So, and oh, to talk about no pressure, imagine being asked by your hero, "Hey, can you help me run my can you help me run my crowdfunding thing?" And I'm like, sure, no pressure. So, not only am I honored to actually get to do this, but the idea that I even get to team teach a course with Tony. I think only one person is signed up so far. There's like, I want to say there's what is that called? I want to say there is, what's the word I'm looking for? Get out of the way, dude. I want to say that I lost a thought. Where did that go? I'm glad I caught it on time to time. I'm glad you got there too. Really hoping it takes off. That app sounds really cool. I agree. Yeah, it does sound really awesome. I'm curious on this. Text margin, border width, more options. La 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 la. Okie dokie. So where are we at? Ah, perfect timing. So I think we're getting ready to start our first interview. And again, this is someone I've known for, good grief, years. I think I met them when they were a student, and they were sneaking into the computer lab as a freshman because you weren't allowed to be, you didn't have classes until you actually got into your junior or excuse me, sophomore year in the computer lab. But I saw Mr. Lamont Russ working on some work, and typically we had a lot of people. We have a lot of wannabe artists that sign up for art school, and don't get me wrong, a lot of those people are just starting, or they're just kind of getting getting their start in things. So I'm walking up and I see this incredible work on screen, and I look at him and I go, "Is that your work?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's my work." And I was like, "Good grief!" I was like, "Well, it looks good." I didn't know that about 6 or 7 other people previous to that kept asking him the same question, and who are you and why are you here? So, anyway, that was then. This is now. So I'm so proud of Lamont. Anyway, I digress. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this first interview here. Mr. Lamont Logan Russ. So give me a moment. Let's see. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, hanging out with my friend, confidant, my son, Mr. Lamont Russ.
You're a horrible father.
I know this, but I can admit it, which
you raised some bad kids.
This makes me a good one. So, what's up, dude? How's it going?
You know, it's going that way. It's going that way. I like so many artists in the industry right now are back looking for work. That's the nature of this industry. Just every time it hits, it's just like, oh, it hit so bad because I've been I've been doing it since 2007. Okay. So it's like it's so weird for me to be back looking for work. But that's how our industry work. We got the writer's strike. We got the like massive layoffs in video games or whatever like that. It's man, it's rough out there for artists, which is crazy because like you wouldn't have what you have on TV without us. I figured like we're the ones who never should lose a job, but that's neither here or there. No need to get into that.
Are you shaking your camera every 5 seconds? What are you doing?
Are
you leaning on leaning on the desk?
Let me lean off of it.
Thank you. Posture.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Dad.
What is it like? Talk about your life hard. Your life is going as smooth as a stealth mission with the Wind brothers and the Wind sister Dot.
You know, my friends can't do stealth missions to save my life. They, oh my God, literally trying to. We ain't gonna talk about that either. Just shout out to all the artists that's looking for work. They got an amazing amount of artists on. You guys go to ArtStation, LinkedIn, whatever like that, and you'll see just tons of just amazing artists putting out there, showcasing their talents, their work, and everything like that. Check them out. We need work. Yeah. Let's get it.
So, speaking of art, so you don't do no art. What exactly do you do, and why are you on my summit?
Oh my gosh! All right. So, at this point in time, I consider myself to be a concept artist, which means an art director, producer, a client, anybody will come to me with an idea for something that they want to make, whether it be a TV show, a cartoon, animated series, a film, a YouTube series, anything that you can see on a visual screen, or even in print stuff too, because I've done children's books before. I'm the guy to go to help get those ideas out of your head and on the paper to help sell the idea, to get it moved forward, to go into production. So that's anything from my specialty is mostly in background designs, environment designs, background paintings, concept paintings, vehicle designs, props, assets, layouts, color scripts, anything that will help a full production team get the work into production. I also have some production skills. I've done 2D animation before. You know a little something about that. That's how I got into a 2D animation summit. Cool. So we'll go over a very, very small smidget of that during this talk. So 2D animation, character designs. I even used to do like traditional cell animation too. Yeah. So I moved from cell animation to Flash to like Toon Boom animation. It has been a crazy journey. But like, I don't like to showcase my skills as a 2D animator, because I know and have seen some 2D animators that can just whoop my butt. And it's just like, let me put this down and stop embarrassing myself. But I at least know a little bit of that about it. So when I see it, I can just in awe of it at how good animation has become. Not just 2D animation, but 3D animation too, with how they translate the same amount of detail and study just how they look at the world the way 2D animators do, and just apply that to 3D animation.
Yeah, there's levels to it. You're talking about, you don't mess with 2D animation or character design when you see other stuff. I'm like, no, I keep you on speed dial, because when I look at what you're doing as far as character design and stuff like that, and I'm going, yeah, I'm going to scribble this out or give you an idea, and then I need your help with it. For those of you, well, check when we worked on the project with Toon Boom, actually developing their 21-day boot camp, the C Note project. Like you helped design on that, which was pretty awesome. So I have 2 questions I want to throw to you. One you know about, one you don't know about.
Okay.
But I want to throw these questions, and then I also want to, you've got something prepared to share with us, so we'll switch over to your screen.
Okay.
My first question, because I'm curious about this. Lamont J. Russ has an issue, we'll say, I don't know. And can we say you have a habit? I'll call it that. You have a habit.
I do.
When we in the art community, any of your art friends get a new art book, you're like, oh, a new book for my collection. And then we have to keep an eye on the book to make sure it doesn't end up being part of your collection. That being said.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's how I'm going to go. That's how I'm going into this.
Okay.
He said, "What book, in your opinion, should be on every animator's shelf?"
Oh my God, why would you do that?
Because
Oh
I'm
my
me.
God. Uh, oh my God. Every book on anime. Oh my God. Let's see. I think I think there should be uh I think there should be at least two. I can't say one, at least two.
Okay.
Okay. Um I think it's I am so embarrassed that I don't know the full name, but I know everybody knows it because that's an animator that knows it, and probably is not an animator that knows it. The animators, sir, what is survival kit?
Yes.
That should be on every animator's in every animator's book collection because that thing is like I feel like the holy grail of learning 2D animation before you touch really anything else as far as learning 2D animation. You want to go through that book, and it can apply to 3D animation. It can apply to traditional cell animation. It applies to you know yeah After Effects and Premiere animation stuff, Toon Boom stuff. Even if you're still using Flash, if that's like still alive.
It's
I,
a thing with some people. Yes,
yeah,
I can
yeah.
check the production that's using it currently, and I'm going, they're using Flash MX, and I'm going, I don't even know how you're doing that, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. So having that is a must. And then number two, having a book of a project. Usually it's a Disney project because, they're like had a ton of movies with great artists that worked on it. So have a movie that inspired you to do animation in the first place. I have the Animator Survivors Guild, and my go-to movie is I don't even think I told you this, Tony, is the Hunchback of Notre Dame
Oh
art book.
wow. Okay.
And that is because that is the first movie that made me want to get into animation, and not necessarily that it's the best movie. It's the movie that I was a part of. I was at the Disney. What was that? I was in like middle school. I think eighth grade, about to go to ninth grade, and I was at the. There's a Disney had like an animation summer camp
Okay.
that I went to for the summer to learn how to be an Imagineer at Disney,
Okay.
and they were working on a Hunchback of Notre Dame when I went there, and we got to like even pair up with artists and see what they were doing on a day-to-day basis. And I actually got to see artists like drawing and doing, because they was doing traditional cell and stuff. Well, cell, still on
Yeah.
paper and everything.
Right.
And my mind was just seeing all these artists, just oh my god! Like it was one thing going to the summer camp and doing animation and stuff like ourselves,
Right.
but like actually going to the you're in Orlando, you have that building with the Mickey Mouse magic wizard hat on it, and you go inside and the Imagineers and people in there and they're working on this stuff. I was like, oh my god, this is so like I saw it and I went inside and I like smelt pencils and paper, and I was like, I need to be a part of this. So
Sweet.
Notre Dame made me definitely um want to be an animator. And then from there, it just opened up to everything else. Like, oh my God, look at that background. Oh my God, look at that tree design. It's like, oh my God, look at the clothes on that character. Like, so I just kind of fell in love with the process, period.
Loving that. I'm trying to
Yeah.
think what I would have to think about what movie made me kind of go like, well, dang on, that's
Yeah.
kind of tight. And I have to think on mine.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
but while I'm thinking about that, I am going to throw you this. Now, this is a curveball I'm going to throw you
Okay.
because there's something that I personally struggle with, and you're aware of it. So I'll bring you in because um, I was chatting with the my friend Lindsay earlier about this. That every year I go through this. Do I even want to do a summit this year? Should it be this? Should it be this? Um, and so I've always wanted to ask a question. So I figured I could ask you this question because, again, you'll give me the answer whether I like it or not. Uh, One, what exactly is the 2D Animation Virtual Summit? And two, um, how is it different? Is it different than anything that's out there? What's the big deal about it?
Mhm.
That's my
Oh,
question.
okay. Those are questions.
Okay, those are my questions. It's a two-part question. Yes.
Uh, well, I would say this, and I'm going to answer both like together in one answer because I feel like the answer is
Told you it's a single see. It's a single question.
yeah, they
Right.
go hand in hand. The 2D Animation Summit is a annually online brings all our world's artists together. No, it is you know what I know is like uh our industry is like being in a club
Okay.
and we're even at the point where you can kind of like look at somebody and know he's in the club. She, they, you can look at them and be like, I know they're in the club. You can look at them by how they walk or how they're observing the world. Some people is like a dead giveaway, like how they're dressed. If I'm walking around with a Rocco's Modern Life T-shirt, you can probably bet that I'm in the club. Um, and it's not like a club like it's a bad thing or it's a secret society. What I realize is that we all have a lot of knowledge about us, and as artists, as people, working in 2D animation, 3D animation, just in our entertainment industry, period, we all have a lot of knowledge because as artists, like we've been trained to view the world a specific way and then like express that a specific way. So when you see someone who does the animation for My Little Pony and you're a brony and you're like freaking out over My Little Ponies and all this stuff, just understand and the person that animated that came from years of looking at horses and how they move and how they act, um, and years of just drawing horses walking, eating, prancing, name whatever they do. Actually, probably seeing horses in the wild or going to a farm or actually seeing ponies and all that stuff like that. I'm sure by now people have seen behind the scenes things where, like with Disney animation studios, they'll walk like a real live animal in there, and people like draw the animal and
Right.
stuff like in life. Um, like we have been doing that. Like at least for me, I've been doing that since like second grade. So you see one painting, but understand that I've been doing that painting since second grade, and I have like these just knowledge of how light it's supposed to hit something, and how textures is supposed to look, and how sand is supposed to feel when you look at it, and how air is supposed to smell when you look at it. All that is packed into this tiny little piece of artwork that we do and we show the world. And what I see for the animation summit is that is an opportunity for us club members to meet up and just be fans ourselves. Because most of the time when we're not talking to each other, it's because we're working. I mean, it takes a lot of work to do this stuff, and we don't have as much time as everyone else to like see the finished product and geek out over it because we're already on to the next, or we're still in the middle of making the thing that you're geeking out over. So things like this gives us an opportunity to be fans of each other, to share knowledge in animation, to a little bit of camaraderie, to poke fun at each other, to laugh at our mistakes and hardships, to just fellowship of the ring, if you will. But no, it like just like you said, you'll be talking to one artist and they'll throw out a name like, "Hey, have you interviewed so and so?" And you're like, "No, I haven't interviewed so and so." And then you get a doorway to go and interview so and so. And now I've also seen that these artists are starting to get a spotlight on the work that they've done over the years, especially me as a concept artist. The artwork that I do is sometimes called like a hidden art, which is like where most of us, not just concept artists, but animators period, because the amount of work that we do, you rarely get to see. We are like tip of the iceberg type stuff. With the whole iceberg, you just see the tip of it. And you might see one painting, but you don't see the 5,000 sketches and layout designs and color scripts, and you don't see any of that stuff that we do to get to that one painting. And this is yet again another opportunity to shine some light on what we do in the industry, on how long it takes us to do it, and how much like sweat and pain and love goes behind making all of this stuff that goes by in like minutes. So 2D Animation Summit seems like a club for artist fans to be fans.
Cool. And thank you. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. You're welcome. I want 20% off it if you make t-shirts.
I was about to say, that was the best part. Like, not to pull out a violin. That's like we got to work on getting grants. I had one of the first. No, it wasn't the first person, but one of my when I put out a list of I want to interview this person, I want to do this person. I normally have a dream list of people.
Mm-hmm.
There's one individual, and I'm not going to call them out by name because it will put a spotlight on them. But there's one person we're actually Facebook friends, so I hit them up on Messenger, and I'll ask questions. I'm like, hey, so what's the best way to reach you for an interview? So it's like, because I'm like, mm-hmm. my ultimate, if I can get that person. But yeah, I had someone recently, they hit me back, I'm going to use my time. I want to get paid for it. I'm like, dude, we're all volunteering. I wish I had money. Maybe one day we'll get grants. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just looking into how do we take it to the next level? That would be the thing to be able to go, how much would it be to actually pay?
Yeah, to pay our people to come on and have a little talk.
Yeah, that was kind of, and shout out to one I know a couple of times we've had our sponsors go, hey, well, we want you to take care of your speakers too. So they've helped us out a lot with that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's been one shouting out to all of our panelists for the time they take to volunteer with this thing. We don't charge for it. We tried charging the first year, and that crashed and burned. And we said, okay, let's do it differently. Yeah. But yeah, just kind of putting this out there and then making sure it's available for everyone. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a question I've never asked. I think I was talking to Grillo about it, that I said I need to actually get an interview myself, but I feel weird writing the questions. So, but yeah, every year.
Shout out to Grillo. You owe me an Amsterdam meetup.
If y'all can get y'all calendars together,
right?
But yeah, man, it's like I never, because everybody, yeah, man, get to something. Part of me is going, and I'm trying not to sound arrogant or self-serving, but I'm like, but why is it a big deal? So it's like I know why I do it. Mark Simon and I were joking the fact that I put together a summit just to ask people questions that I want to know the answers to. It's like yeah, like Mark, which I love the fact that he's very, very transparent about what his day rate is. And I'm like, that is cool as hell. I'm like, because I wouldn't know that otherwise. I'll ask a geeky question, like I was messing with Mike Atnell yesterday. I was like, by the way, what's the line weight for The Simpsons? I want to know. What are y'all using for that? Which, by the way, and it's in the interview, and I didn't know this. So I was like, yeah, you're working on The Simpsons. Yeah, after all this time, y'all probably got a lot of stuff off the shelf now. And he said they don't recycle art. And I was like, whoa, yeah, yes, okay. I was like, yeah, that's how I was. I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that is impressive.
Yeah.
Now, even.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody on The Simpsons.
I was like,
show.
Sweet. Oh, are you kidding?
Oh my God, because I can feel you. Sometimes it's easier and quicker to just copy and paste, and they don't let y'all recycle.
Yeah.
I'm even more impressed now.
Yeah, there's
also I got that book on the shelf too. So if you ever pick up that Simpsons workbook, that Art of the Simpsons.
I was like, wait a minute, did we give you that one or did you get that one? Or did you borrow that one? See, okay, you're telling on yourself. All right, anyway.
Shout out to The Simpsons.
I hear you. Moving on. So
what are you talking about? It's in the family, Dad. It's an heirloom.
It's like, so one, about the dad thing. My wife and I, we've one, Lamont is a former student of ours. And then we became close, like for friends, like family and everything like that. But we've been friends for so long, and I think recently, this was hilarious. Like, let's go out and grab a beer. So we went out to a bar, and we're sitting at the bar, and this is Father's Day weekend, and we're just sitting, chilling, having nachos and everything, and everything's cool.
Nachos really
and
good.
Well, not the nachos there weren't that good. They weren't the Tucker nachos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
You know, so you know what bar I'm talking
about. Bar. Okay. Yeah. This bar.
So we're at the bar, and this guy walks in and said, he looks at me and goes, "Happy Father's Day." Right? He just walks off. Doesn't say it to Lamont. And Lamont's going, "That's not my daddy.
That's not my daddy." You tell me, happy.
I was like,
this is great. Why can't I be a daddy?
But yeah, that was hilarious. That was I'm sorry. It made my day. Like, thank you. It's like,
yeah, you're still carrying the joke on, and that's the longest dad joke ever. Still going.
Yes, it is. Okay. So,
all right.
What do you got for us? What do you want to? Let me make sure you can actually share the screen. Let me double check.
Okay.
All right.
I got a green light for my screen share. Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, I've been in the industry since 2007. Now, mainly I've been working in television animation, but I hop back and forth between games and film stuff too. I'm based in Atlanta, so as you know, we actually have like a lot of production work happening here. You know, one of the biggest things is the Marvel films. So anytime that I get a chance to, I go over there and I just beg like a little homeless kid to just, can I please, if I can't be a part of production, let me just sit in the corner and watch so I can just some of the knowledge just falls on me. I told you, see, this is what 2D Animation Summit is about. It's about getting this knowledge and learning and all that stuff, because you can't be a better artist. And, you know, our field is like, it's like 70% networking. So it's who you know to get out there. So again, so I kind of go where I need it, and being a concept artist allows me to do that. The most challenging part is adjusting to what I'm doing. which is what I'm going to be talking about right now. I kind of looked back over my work and saw how it evolved from show to game to movie to back to show and all this. But the process for me has still been the same. And so the first thing that we're going to do, let me share my screen here. Boo boo. So we're going to share that. Let's go with the first one will be Squidbillies. You see the screen okay?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm going to apologize for any of these files that look pixelated. This is the best that the internet can muster for me right now. A lot of this work, I either don't have permission to show, or which is why I don't have the high resolution stuff. Or I was under contract where I wasn't allowed to have any of the work myself, like put on any kind of hard drive or anything like that. And we had to get, you guys work in this industry, you know how NDAs work. It's not my work, it's their work. And so I'm at their mercy as far as what I can show. But the first show that I started on after I got out of college in Atlanta was Squidbillies. I was working for Radical Access at the time, who were just working for Adult Swim. So we did a lot of content for the Adult Swim show. So as far as the 2D world of animation, I was fresh off of doing cell animation, and they hired me to come on to be a 2D animator. And sadly, one of those things, again, I don't have any of the cell animation that or the animation from the show that I can show you. Nor do I have Flash anymore. So technically I do have some, but I don't even have Flash. So I can't even show you how it works. But Squidbillies is an easy show for you to look up if you want to see how it was made and what was put together. But if you recall, most shows on the Adult Swim channel was aimed towards the college crowd. And so therefore the artwork on it kind of reflected the attention span of college students. I don't want to say anything that makes it look like it's a negative, like, oh yeah, we got to dumb it down for them. No, it's just that their attention span, because of what's going on in their world, is about the length of a YouTube commercial. So we had to have the artwork match that. So when I first came there, I was doing cell animation, and I had to learn, like literally as I came there, I had to learn how to use Flash and animate in Flash. Shout out to Tony Ross, Tonyteach, for putting me through a crash course the day before I started day one, and got me trained up on Flash to do Flash animation on Squidbillies. You guys are welcome.
Oh, and by the way, and let me give a shout out to Maurice Novembre for teaching me Flash.
Okay.
So
have you ever had him on the show yet?
No, I don't think I have.
I gotta get him. He's got some stories.
Yeah, because he taught me, and I remember when he was showing me, he was talking about symbols, and he was showing me like circles and squares. I'm going, so it can only be this? And then yeah. So then once I learned, it's like, oh wait, it can be more. So when I got to teach you, I'm like, okay, look, about the symbol thing, it can be really, really simple, or it can be as complex as a huge scene. So it's like, yeah. So yeah, shout out to Maurice.
Yeah, shout out Maurice. We got to get you on the summit. I fought Tony hard on learning Flash animation. Mind you, I had just a year before, I had just graduated from college with a BA in illustration and 2D animation. So like I was hardcore hand drawing, coming up under Lou Hertz and Jim Peebles, like hardcore. And so when I'm looking at the computer, like, what is this new age crap these kids are doing? Flash? No, I'm going to drive but anyways, they taught me. I got to the studio. I did this amazing animation of early just like flopping around and all this stuff. It was like Pixar Disney work. And they looked at it and they go, nah, we just need him to do this. That's it. And my heart sunk because all of my training had led up to this moment of animating a character that was going to go on network television, and they were like, nope, that's all you do. And I was like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go back to my mom and be like, look, I did that one tentacle that did this. I was yeah, it was horrible. It was terrible. But the problem was for me is I didn't understand how the business worked. And that was a very big thing that every artist needs to absolutely learn. You need to understand and learn how the business works in order for you to survive in this industry, to do anything. As artists, we have a tendency to just like, look, I don't want to handle any of that business stuff. I just want to draw, I just want to make art, I just want to blah, blah, blah. Right. And the reality is until you learn the business, you're not going to be able to make art, or at least you're not going to be able to hold the job making art if you don't understand and learn the business. Now, you do have to understand that in our field, everything is almost always contract based, and you're going to be out of work and in work and out of work and in and work and all that stuff like that. That's just the nature of the business. But again, learn the business so you can see those signs, so you can be prepared, so you can get ready to move on to the next project or have something waiting that's coming up. But again, we won't get into that. We hear about the artwork right now. So okay. I just want to show you that this is how Squidbillies look. And I'm just going to go through a few of these screenshots. There's nothing much really to talk about. Everyone saw the show. It's this redneck country version of these squids that live out in, I don't know, Lithonia, Georgia or something. And we got a bunch of different backgrounds here. See, yeah, here we go. The first image I go to, it's like small, pixelated. So again, I just want you to see how their backgrounds looked. When I came onto the show, all of this was already established, although I did like a few added backgrounds. And if I recall, the original method for this was traditional painting and then into Photoshop. I believe by the time we were on our later seasons, I don't even know how long we went for. It was so long ago. I don't know how long ago we went for seasons. But when we were on our later seasons, we were doing the show in Photoshop fully. So just getting you an idea of how everything looked like, we clearly didn't care about perspective and lighting and all of that stuff like that. None of your traditional art skills. It just seemed like an expression of art. This definitely feels more like abstract art and everything. But again, you have to keep in mind of who the target audience was and what we was doing this for, and make sure that you're coming in under budget so you can keep this show in production. When I was working at Radical Access doing this show, I think that what do I want to say? I want to say that I spent more time doing the actual the flash animation on the characters than I did working on the backgrounds or anything. But again, I'll just keep scrolling through, just letting you see that there's not much as far as how complex backgrounds and characters needed to be for this show. And you just need to understand as the artist that this is how far you need to go. This is what the client wants. This is the style that I had to start out with to paint. Now, mind you, I can do full, detailed, beautifully rendered paintings, but I had to adapt to this and dumb it down and make sure that my style fit this if I wanted to keep working on this show. Once I did that and I got in my rhythm, then I became very reliable to the studio and very helpful. It was like, okay. And when that happened, they put me on another project, which is Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It's another show we was handling. We handled like a bunch of different shows and TV spots and everything like that, back when there were actual commercials. So we handle things for Adult Swim. We handle things for Cartoon Network. We did a lot of promotional work for them, a lot of show pitches, character designs, all types of stuff. So the next thing that I moved on to was Aqua Teen Hunger Force, because that was the next major show that we had going. And so here, let me pull that up. Pull that bad boy up. So they realized that we did a skit or a sketch that was kind of like a spoof of the Scooby Doo, the old school original Scooby Doo series.
Right.
And so in a couple of the scenes, we wanted to have backgrounds that you can like, stitch together and do the Scooby Doo traditional, the loop pan.
Yeah.
And so this was my first industry job where I got to paint something that is more on my skill set. We need some great lighting, some sort of detail on it. And basically this was the background that they can use to scroll past and scan as the characters were driving in this spoof version of the Mystery Machine, and they were the spoof Scooby-Doo characters. So this was like a huge step for me going from doing those Aqua Teen Hunger Force backgrounds. I mean, the Squidbillies backgrounds to something like this. And mind you, back then I wasn't even photo bashing. So all of this was just hand painted in Photoshop, just a drawing and then straight up painted by hand. It was so painstaking back then in comparison to what I can do now, is what I'm saying. Back then it was like a dream. And this is crazy because this is right on 85. And I literally
I recognize that, yeah.
Yeah, I was like literally sitting in traffic like everyone does on 85. And I was like, oh, I'll take the picture. I took the picture, took it back in the studio, and literally just painted straight from that. So I just wanted people to see how drastically in the same studio in the same year that I'm working for them, I went from painting those kind of abstract,
like
watercolory,
multiple line weights everywhere.
Yeah. This is just like, yeah, just throw some paint on the wall and wherever it lands, hey, that looks like a tree. That it's going to be a tree now.
Bob Ross.
I'm not saying that's the process. Not saying that's the process. I'm just saying that's what it felt like for me. I went from doing that to doing these almost like photoreal paintings, and more realistic images and paintings and stuff for Aqua Teen Hunger Force. And that right there let me know what I had to do as an artist. And I think that's probably what sparked me being a concept artist in this industry too, because every project I get on, I have to adapt to that project, and the art style has to change, and it can go anywhere from like cartoony stuff to like photoreal stuff like this. So in doing these, and in fact, this shot itself actually got me to work for a studio that had just finished working on Frisky Dingo, and they were starting a new project called Archer. So I was working for Radical Access in this studio called Floyd County at the same time. I was doing both jobs, making backgrounds for both studios. It was a very tedious job, loved every minute of it. It was very, very challenging. I'll show you the one of the first images that got produced from Archer was this. So as you can see, I went from Squidbillies to that painting on 85 to painting this environment. This is what they were doing on Archer. Now, a little bit later, I'm going to show you like a small portion of the process that we went through to get through this step. It's pretty well known now how we do it now. But basically, we would take a 3D environment, a basic 3D environment block out, and then paint all these details over it. So it was, as far as a pipeline is concerned, this helped out storyboard artists and everything immensely, because you already had at least the space that you knew you were going to work in, and the shot that that was going to be set up for you. You can, in the 3D environment, you can put that camera anywhere you want to, and director goes, that is the shot that we want. You can give that a screenshot of that to a storyboard artist and let them work off of that. Then you can also give that to me and let me paint the details on it to get this shot done. That's in a nutshell how it's done. But this is the bullpen. This is the office that Sterling Archer worked in the spy agency. Everybody knows the show. Shout out to everybody that worked on that show. It had the longest run. It was in its just released the final season, final episode not too long ago. So that show was on the air for about like 14 years. They had a great run. A lot of good artists worked on that show. A lot of good artists are moving on to other shows now, or even looking for work. So definitely hire some Archer people, because they are, man, they got it. Their track record is just out of this world.
Did you know that one of the first books on learning 2D animation, The Animator's Workbook by Tony White, is no longer in print? It's actually one of the first animation books that I've ever purchased, and I still use it to this day. Even though this book is out of print, you can still get a copy. Tony White is currently running a crowdfunding campaign for his new animation education app, Drawtastic. So, you can get a digital copy of the Animator's Workbook for a small donation of $10. Grab a piece of history and bring to life the past, present, and future of animation by helping to fund the Drawtastic app. Pledge now at igg.me/@/Drawtastic. Okie dokie. All right, so by the way, let you know what goes on with the summit. With all of the interviews, we do the full interview, but during the week of the summit, I'm playing them at 45 minutes tops. Some of the interviews are shorter than 45 minutes as a whole, but the longer ones, you'll be able to see those next week. There's going to be 2 different playlists on YouTube. One of the playlists will be pretty much this summit, and you can actually get to, like, for instance, yesterday's replay. It's literally replay.animationsummit.net, and eventually that'll be the entire playlist of the full week. However, there will be a second playlist that is going to be the entire summit. For instance, the entire, or basically the interviews in their entirety, without me interrupting, without these little commercials and things like that. Well, technically there will be commercials. Anyway, how am I trying to word this? Long story short, hold that thought. Looks like somebody's coming in. Yes, Chris is actually here. Give me a second. So the idea, Lamont's interview, the full interview is 2.5 hours. Yes, we talk a lot. So the full interview, Lamont's full interview is like 2.5 hours. Some of the other people maybe like an hour and a half. But what will be listed next week was the 2 separate YouTube playlists. One is the interviews just going straight, and then the other one is the replay of the summit. So letting you know what's going on in case you actually missed this. Give me a second. I need to turn on, I think. La 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 la. Alrighty. Ow, excuse me. Give me 1 second here. Hey, Chris. Can you hear me?
Hey. Yes, I can.
One. This is. I'm excited, giddy as a schoolgirl. I think I can legally say that. One, that I forever get to chat with you. Chris, you'll actually hear me refer to Chris as is the artist formerly known as Mudbubble. So Mudbubble, keyframer. So yeah, whenever I hear, and I still hear your daughter saying Mudbubble, and it's the coolest thing ever. One, it's the idea, and I'm gushing a little bit, but Chris did that thing of where I was trying to teach my students. If you are on a bus with someone or in an elevator with someone, and you say, if they ask you, hey, what is your handle or what is your domain name? Can you say something that they're going to remember? If you don't have a business card, are they going to remember it later? And Mudbubble, how cool is that? And it's like, what does that even mean? But the fact that he's an animator, okay, yeah, I could totally see Mud Bubble. That makes sense. But yeah,
it worked. It worked.
Brilliant. Okay. The other part I'm excited about, shout out to Ecamm Live. I'll have to reach out to y'all and see if y'all want to be sponsors next year. That's pretty much the backbone of me running the summit. Usually I'm adding not real time. What is that? I forgot it. I'm forgetting the other piece of software. Restream, damn it. Restream.io, I normally have as the second part to Ecamm. But today, for the first time ever, I'm using Ecamm by itself. So it's shooting out to Facebook, it's shooting out to YouTube and LinkedIn. And I just pulled Chris in for an interview. So I'm like, this is the first time I'm testing it out. So we're beta testing live. Let's do this.
Nice. It's working flawlessly so far, man.
Dude, I'm envious of your camera. It's sweet. You look pretty.
If I only had a nickel. No, it's a Logitech. I should do like some ASMR segment. Tony's is fine, but Chris's isn't. It fixed it for Chris when Tony went off, so it might be something between you guys. Interesting.
All right, so we'll do it that way. I'm gonna use like a CB here and just talk occasionally, and then you can talk.
Okay. And Sleepy Gallo says no echo again. Okay. Echo goes away when Tony mutes the mic. Interesting. All right. Good to know, guys. Thank you. No echo when Tony is off.
Fine. I don't have to talk. It's only my show.
Okay,
dude. Give me a little bit of tell me about some of the stuff you've been working on, and I'm just going to shut up and listen.
Okay. Oh man, what have I been working on? So the last 6 years, I'm not with the company anymore, but the last 6 years, I'm always surprised by what animation, where animation takes me professionally. I was working for a healthcare startup, trying to solve problems with patients and providers suffering from rare diseases, and they needed a visual storyteller. They found me about 6 years ago and hired me to help, literally tell their stories and come up with a visual language that helped explain complicated topics concerning end-of-life issues and rare diseases, which was a crazy, I guess, rewarding challenge in a way, because you're helping people. And I never ever thought that whatever it was that I learned how to do over the last couple of decades would be used in that way. And so it was really cool. And there's always been projects on the side. I finished a freelance project for a company that mixed live action with animation over it. I actually have a personal project. I'm right now not technically employed or full-time employed. So I got a couple of freelance projects starting up. But in the meantime, there's a little bit of downtime, which is what I think a lot of artists dream about, because you never work on your own stuff, right? It's like a mechanic's car is always broken. So I have a personal project that miraculously is in the works. And when I say miraculously, it's because, speaking of my daughter, you mentioned my daughter earlier. Earlier this year, I was going through some old hard drives looking for a file. And I forget what the file was. It was something for another project. And I literally was pulling out hard drives that were from an old PC in the bottom of a drawer and connecting them and hooking them up to my Mac and looking and searching through them. And then I found a folder that I didn't recognize. So I opened it up and it was just a bunch of audio files. And they were recordings from my daughter from when, she was 6 years old. So that would be 2009. And I didn't even know what it was until I pressed play and I was listening and I realized, I recorded her telling this really cute joke. And I always planned on animating it and I never did. And I got a little mad at myself for almost losing that whole hard drive and that whole project. And it was so long ago that I knew that she didn't even remember recording it. No one else in my family or nobody knows about it. Even I forgot about it. So anyway, I promised myself that I would animate it. And I actually started it last year. And I even hired a background artist to kind of keep me honest and keep me on my toes with this project. And so I've been slowly working on it, and it's probably maybe about halfway done. And I've kind of been working on it off and on over the past year or so. I even was working on it last night and did a quick little tutorial that I put online, I think on LinkedIn and Instagram, showing how I was animating a car. I'm always looking at the great thing about taking your time was you go back and look at scenes and think, oh, I can add this, detail or some sort of animation that could make the scene even better. So there's a little bit of a street scene, and I'm adding cars, driving through it. So I've been designing cars and animating cars and adding them in and things like that. So anyway, it's a cute little project. I'm hoping to get that done this year. We're pretty close, but again, I'm always adding more and more things. But yeah, it involves a little cute little chicken, and we'll see. That's just a fun little project. But yeah, as far as overall what I'm working on, like I said, I got the next freelance project coming up. It's character based. I don't know much beyond that. I think the client is supplying storyboards and audio and all that. So yeah, and I'm trying to do more with creating graphics and tutorials to put online, because I just find that's always fun when you can show what your process is like, and especially when I stumble upon some cool little technique involving layering animation and stuff. So I like sharing it. I love seeing people have that same aha moment I had way back when I discovered how these applications work. So yeah, there's always something. Sometimes I'll get an idea spontaneously, or I'll see an image that I like, and I want to animate it, and I'll just do that. I'm going to collaborate with someone I've been sort of admiring from afar. Here's the cool thing about the internet is, like, about a year ago on Twitter, I started following someone who is doing a lot of work with AI, and started seeing everything she was posting and showing us. Her account just started taking off, and from a few thousand followers to now I think she's got over 90. And then a couple months ago she gets hired by Adobe to be an evangelist. And then I'm at Adobe Max last week, and we're at the Max Bash on Wednesday night outside. There's 10,000 people there, and she walks by me, and I said hi, and she recognized me because she followed me, and now we're going to collaborate on something. So it's just crazy when you just immerse yourself and get involved, follow people, and make start conversations with them. And anyway, it's that's something I'm looking forward to. We're going to probably take something that she generates with AI, and then I'm going to figure out how to animate it or bring it to life, which I did that once a while back on Adobe Live, where we took an image of a woman and we brought it to life using sort of that parallax 2.5D method. So yeah, I don't know, lots of little things, looking for maybe that possible next full-time job, even if it's the right company. But for now, I'm freelancing. So yeah, that's me right now. Anyway, and then
All right, so I'm muting Chris for a second. So we're gonna play like a little CB thing. So I'm curious. I'll throw a question out to you. What do you think the biggest misconception about becoming an animator is?
So what I think it is I think people hear the word animation and they immediately think it's too difficult for them. In fact, that was one of the topics I discussed, or I at least was talking about to the people attending my Obi Max last week. Because I even asked them, I said, who here is intimidated by the word animation? And a lot of hands went up. So I explained to them that I've had a career in animation. I never took an animation class before. I wish I did. There's still a lot to learn, but that's probably why I always feel like there's a lot to learn. But one of the things I was trying to imply was that sometimes it's just not being intimidated, keeping it simple, and just trying it, and don't be afraid to fail. I've had plenty of animations that just didn't work or didn't look like how I thought they would look, or they were just too difficult. And but I've always learned from all those failures. So for me, I just think in terms of misconception, in terms of people getting into the field of animation, just have to sit down and try. I met the team from Astute Graphics who make cool plugins for Illustrator. That they were awesome. They were over from the UK in LA last week, and one of their graphic designer was talking to me about how much she'd love to try to animate one of her pieces, but she just doesn't know how to approach it. And so since we left Adobe, everyone went home. She showed me some of the pieces she was thinking about animating, and they're really cool. But they would be very difficult to animate just in the nature of her style. But I accept that as a challenge. It's not something that scares me. So I actually started yesterday doing a few animation tests. I brought in her image and started figuring out like what would be the best method. And I'm trying not to rely on the tools provided, like whatever it is. If it's a tween or if it's a bone tool or whatever, sometimes you just have to sit and just draw every frame. But doing initial tests, sometimes I'll use a tween to get the initial motion down, say with a stroke, and then use that as my guide, and then maybe do frame by frame over it. But it's a very hand drawn looking style of art. So, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Again, make mistakes. It's okay. You'll learn from all those mistakes more than anything else. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat too. I'm working for a large credit card company doing corporate animated technology videos. You don't need to work in a movie studio. Yeah, exactly. I used to think a long time ago before I fell into this whole industry that nobody needed art. I got frustrated. There was no internet as we knew it at the time, and it was hard to find a job. And then I realized how wrong I was, that everybody needs art, especially animation. If I just got a message today through my website, someone's just looking for, an animated GIF for their website, I don't know. It's just and I looked at their website. It's a very corporate looking thing, but yeah, that somebody always needs something.
All right, cutting back in. Yeah, that's the one thing I was teaching when I was teaching college. I was like, everyone thinks they're going to get to work on the biggest, coolest next thing. Oh yeah, I'm going to do the WWE is going to do an animation. I'm going to be in charge of it. And it's like, yeah, somebody had to do the commercial for Preparation H, or the design for that. Or what was it? It was some sort of I forgot, there was a baby thing, and it was like for a diaper rash. It's like I can't remember the name of it. It was the crappiest, dinkiest name. I was like, yeah, here's a project you gotta do. You're not gonna get to work on the coolest things all the time. But yeah, everyone that, and for everyone who has crappy artwork and think no one wants your work. I used to be able to say this. You could go into places like Tower Records. I think they're trying to come back, or going into a bookstore, trying to come back also. But if you look at the covers of CDs, those were a thing, or if you look at the covers of books, there is someone out there looking for something that you do. You have no idea until you actually put it out there. So kind of get out of your own head and don't be afraid to fail. I do that a lot. So yeah, don't be afraid to fail. You got to put stuff out there. Okay, going on mute.
Yeah, and to that point, I think it was yesterday I was watching something on TV, and there was a commercial that came on, I think for a vaccine or a flu shot, and it was live action, but there was a wolf in sheep's clothing that was all done in CGI 3D, and it was done really well. It was pretty impressive. The wolf was walking through a hospital and other places and infecting people. And I just looked at it. I went, wow, they spent a ton of money on that, because that 3D that wolf looked pretty realistic, better than most major films, I thought. And this was just a commercial for some medicine of some kind, having to do with either the flu or COVID or something. I don't even remember, but I just remember being blown away. And sometimes you see something like that in a commercial that's just some benign commercial about something, and the animation style, the art style is really, really cool. I feel like someone's always trying to come up with some cool new animation style in that sense. So, yeah, I'm looking too at the chat here. Ended up, this is Year Walking says, in an animation marketing internship for a 3D metal printing company. Yeah. Had to make animations showing their manufacturing process. So unexpected. Yeah. And it's funny because like I have had this whole other career in music, and I've seen this past summer, crazy numbers on Instagram, just producing quick little time lapse related videos showing how to make something. And I mean like crazy numbers. Like 2 videos got over 1 million views, and that's on Instagram. It's like unheard of. And it's just something I created on a Saturday afternoon in my living room, not expecting it. But what I did learn from that, and it carries over to animation, is that when you show people how to do something, how you teach them something, and entertain them in a way that you're not boring them. You grab them in the first 2 or 3 seconds, and you keep it keep the pace going quickly, and it's something interesting every second. All of a sudden, you can build an audience. So, uh, yeah, it's just crazy. Uh, what works, what doesn't work. So, yeah, I worked for an oil and gas company before going on my own. Exactly. Yeah, throughout my career, I mean, there was 10 years in the gaming industry, of course, but yeah, the before that was 6 years freelancing, working for anybody and everybody. A lot of creative agencies, a lot of advertising agencies, mom and pop websites, who need something. Remember Flash intros. uh, so anyway, yeah, and then before that was I actually got my start. I kind of feel like I peaked so early on those cool projects because my very first project. So this is 6 years out of art school. This was back in the early '90s, and I couldn't find anything in my field. I'd never animated before. I'd never had a computer. It was before cell phones and the internet and social media, and I gave up on art. I figured this is too hard. And then um, the band I was in, a friend of ours said, "Hey, there's a new show on Comedy Central, and it's being produced in Watertown, which is a couple of towns over from me here in the Boston area." And I went and dropped off my portfolio on a Monday and said, I'll be back Friday to pick it up. I went back Friday and they said, wait. And long story short, they hired me a month later to work on a project that for Steven Spielberg's new company at the time, because he saw their new little show that was on Comedy Central and loved it. And Spielberg's new company at the time was with Geffen and Katzenberg, which is now DreamWorks. So the very first job I got was, helping create a pilot for DreamWorks, which is bananas. I was working as a car mechanic at a dealership in my father's restaurant. So that's how, but I said to them, I'm like, look, do you need an animator, right? They said, yeah. I said, I've never animated. They said, that's okay. And I said, it's all paperless, right? It's all on computer. They said, yeah. I said, well, I've never even used a computer before. They're like, that's okay. I'm like, how is that okay? That's not okay. I am so underqualified. But they saw my portfolio, obviously. They said, all right, but you can draw. That's all we need. And the way they animated didn't really require animation skills. Um, but through that job, 6 years of discovering Flash, discovering other tools, and figuring it all out, I actually got paid to learn how to do this stuff. And we were just kids, in the basement of a big warehouse, doing TV shows. Home movies was another one that ended up on Cartoon Network. So I got lucky. I worked on all the cool stuff first, and then kind of found myself in the trenches, in good ways, doing all the other kinds of. I almost became a robot animator for a company called Jibo. They made a social robot, an actual physical robot. They were on the cover of Time magazine, and I was up for that job. I was actually working with their SDK and their 3D software, but the robot's face itself actually ran the Flash player. So it was a combination of making the robot physically move, but then you could actually animate what was taking place inside the face of the robot, and you could combine the two. So it's kind of in a way, that was like layering animations. You could have. I remember we had a game where I think you had like a fishing game, and he caught the fish and pulled it, but then his whole body would turn as if he was being pulled physically. So really cool things like that. And that was right when I got hired to do this healthcare thing. And so who knows? Now I feel like, all right, I'm kind of at the next crossroads in my career, and I'm kind of looking at everything and figuring out, like, all right, what's the next big thing? If there is a big thing, maybe I'll just be freelancing for a while. We'll see. But yeah, I'm just responding to 776's comment. I've heard that a lot on LinkedIn, but they talk a lot about networking nowadays in order to get hired because the market's so saturated. But like, how does that work? There's no one way I think that it works. I think networking is huge. You have to network. I've been really active on LinkedIn since I left the previous employer, and I think that post every day, post several times a day, even if it's just a thought, ask questions, engage people in conversation. Um, so that to me is the big thing. And then slowly it kind of snowballs. It'll start to snowball for you. You become somebody that whenever they go on their phone and go on, say, LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever it is, they'll see you active, and it's just you're always present in their mind. and eventually something will happen. It is most of the stuff I've gotten in terms of work over 25 years has been word of mouth or who you know. Of course, going out to LA and hanging out with 10,000 other creative people and meeting amazing people in the industry can help too. So yeah, but getting out, put yourself out there. Anyway, yeah, that's my advice.
Cutting in. So I want to piggyback onto that. No disrespect to anyone who has the tag that says open to work. Okay, that picture's already there. So do I think you need to add on there, like kind of say, hey, if anyone's looking for anything, that's cool. Maybe do that once. I'm going to give a shout out to one of our panelists. I think it's happening today. And again, I mess with him because he brings up his age a lot. So I'm not trying to do that as a negative. It's more of a, you jerk, really? So it's like, Mr. Charlie Folks, this kid is 19. I say kid because I'm 55. He's 19, and he's using one tactic. Not that everyone has to do this, but the tactic he's using is he'll go in and redraw like a different a series that might be out. It might be Game of Thrones, or what was it? What is the pirate death something or whatever like that. But he's redrawing that in his style, and it's like, how did I know about Charlie? It's because one of my colleagues, one of my friends and colleagues, Mr. Tony Grillo, posted something like they just like, oh wow, that looks cool as hell. Let me share that. And then I was like, holy hell, this is awesome. I really like that dude. I want you on my summit. 1, 2, how do I hire you to do some work for me? Because I think I finally found, after looking for years, I think I finally found the style I want to do my show in. I need you to do some character design stuff. So it's not just about posting that you need to go to work. Show people what you can do. And to that, I'll say a lot of people, unfortunately, I had to be really careful with respect to my views on politics, my views on, we'll say that I'm a 55-year-old, dark-skinned, 6'4" African-American male living in America. We'll just say, think maybe what my views on, we'll say, the police are. Their pros and cons. You're speaking to someone, not to make this a point, but you're speaking to someone who, between the ages of 14 and 21, being stopped multiple times, stopped and frisked, never having anything on me, because, well, not saying that I've never done anything illegal, not saying that. I'm saying that just for simply walking, getting stopped. So do I want to comment on that? No. Do I want to make some art about it? Maybe. Do I want to make an animation about it? Maybe. Do I want to make a little 4-foot character, a little character named Barry Angry, that actually gets to talk about his frustration, talk about my frustration with things in politics, where it's kind of like Aesop's Fables. Do I want to say something that's like, why do you get to go around saying things so stupid and I can't even smack you in the face with a brick, not even once? I can't say that, but my character can. So again, take those energies, put it into your artwork. I could complain about, Grillo and I were talking about, do I want to complain about a certain chicken restaurant and their practices? Or do I want to make art and animation about it? Yeah, you can have a point, but put your stuff out there, especially if you're going to actually, you're an artist at the end of the day. And I'm not telling you to shut up. I'm just saying, are you animating about this? Are you putting art out about it? If not, then what are you doing? You're an artist. Handle it that way. All right, going on mute.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I've learned, one of the first things I ever learned was being more subtle can be more impactful than anything and more powerful. I actually learned that from my illustration professor back in '89, when I was in art school doing all these crazy, hyper realistic stuff and lithographs that were 45 inches wide, whatever. And I did a quick little etching that took about 5 minutes, and he told me that was the best thing I had done in 4 years, and I was baffled. I had no idea. I was almost upset. Like, what are you talking about? He says, because it provoked an emotion for him, and it wasn't in your face. It just was something I just wanted to look at it and keep looking at it. And so it taught me a valuable lesson that I kind of applied to not just art and design, but life in general. That the person who's the loudest in the room is not the person you want to know more about. It's always the quiet one, the one who's not saying anything, that you realize is the smartest one in the room, that you want to learn from more and more. That's just proven itself to me over and over so many times. So yeah, and in terms of exact to your point about promoting yourself. So with one of the things I was doing, sometimes digging up an old project and kind of looking at it again with fresh eyes and maybe revising it and updating it a little bit and putting that out there again. I did this, I'll even show you. I did this animation a long time ago. And it's just this woman. I actually saw her walking down the street in Boston once, several years ago. And I don't know, maybe a year later or so, I finally animated her, or tried to. I remember having the vision of like how I pictured it in my head, and whether or not I could pull it off, I don't know. But I tried it and I pulled it off. But I think about a month ago or so, I revisited her. I added a new background. I added a sidewalk. It just updated it, and I threw it up there on LinkedIn. And I can't tell you how many. So far, it's got close to 10,000 impressions, which is like a lot. LinkedIn, maybe I'll get a few hundred, maybe 1,000 tops. But that one in particular, and other people last week said, I really love the woman that you animated. And it just sticks in people's minds. And I've been doing that consistently, uh, even pulling out animations like these. Maybe I'll finish this. Maybe I'll turn this into a story, into a series, just whatever. I've always been in love with Godzilla and movies like that growing up as a kid. So maybe I'll do my take on something like that. But posting, even just a character that's static, maybe I'll throwing it out there, just seeing what the reaction might be for animating that. And of course, more videos like these where I'm actually recording what I'm doing, screen capturing, and then have a camera over my shoulder and showing how I use tools. All that helps branding, even just sketches. Even my opening up my notebook, my sketchbook, and just taking a picture and putting that out there, and just finding a million different ways. Here's that chicken that I'm animating for this personal project, doing a model sheet and throwing that in there. That chicken was mentioned by one of the Astute Graphics employees. That was one of her biggest highlights and memories, seeing at the Sense Labs booth last week. So you never know what is going to resonate with people, and where that takes you. Just put your artwork out there. Only your favorite work too, I would highly recommend. And it doesn't hurt to just go back and open up old projects and revise them if you want, or make them even better. And it's only going to be a positive thing. And maybe something you post doesn't get a lot of views, but you never know what will. It's just I just think putting yourself out there. Don't be scared about people judging you. Just don't. I find the older I get, the less I care, the easier life gets. So, yeah, don't worry about what other people think. I was going to say one more thing. I just reading Tim Giovanni's question. Is it okay? Is Instagram worth investing time into? I think it is. It has helped me in many ways. Again, the other career of I play in like 4 bands drumming, and it's a very active career. I've always been doing that since I was a little kid. And I have, I don't know, just under 20,000 followers, which is crazy for a middle-aged man playing drums. That's not bad. But like I mentioned earlier, I did a couple of videos this summer. Both got over 1 million views. I did another video that has close to 500,000 views. And so, yeah, in a way, I'm in 4 bands right now and about to record an album with somebody next month. And I played Abbey Road Studios a year ago. So, yeah, that's all of that helps brand you. You need to think about creating your brand. And it's amazing what avenues open up, whether you're an animator, an artist, a musician, whatever it may be. if you come up with the right concept. So there's a symbol maker in Turkey, Samson, Turkey, who wanted to make a symbol for me. And I said, well, if you're literally hand making it, hand hammering it and lathing it, shoot some video of it. Get video of it and send it to me, and I'll figure out how to just take advantage of that. We'll create a cool video. So what I did was I actually created a video. He sent me his footage. I edited in Premiere Pro, him literally hand hammering and lathing this symbol. And then I did an animation using just a static ping file of an airplane. And then I used Google Earth and their web-based animation tools to show you leaving Earth from Turkey and then flying over to Boston with the airplane overlaid to just, indicate that this is being shipped. And then when it arrived on my doorstep, I actually shot video of me unboxing it and then playing it. And that's got 450,000 views, I think, almost 500,000 views. So, and of course, he's just an independent symbol maker in Turkey, and all of a sudden now his company's kind of blowing up. So it opens up doors in that sense. He'll throw in an extra symbol for free next time or whatever. But all of a sudden, other companies are calling you saying, "Hey, if we send you this, would you make a cool video of it?" And that works for animation too. You show. When I started teaching how to use Animate, the engineering team took notice, and then all of a sudden you're on the pre-release team, and then you're in these cab meetings that only a handful of people are in. And you're supplying feedback that's helping to improve the application, and you're just getting more connected with people, and it's just always a good thing when you give when you give advice and you're not holding on to your trade secrets as if they're precious little things that you don't want anyone else to know. I'm always up for showing people how I do things, whether I think they're really cool or not. It's just I love showing how I got how I made that chicken walk. I loved last week being able to open up source files with a crowd of people behind me and showing them how it was built and how I don't do anything that difficult. It's all just a whole bunch of really simple techniques that all work together in a certain way that the overall impact visually looks more complicated than it really is. So somehow, yeah, I one thing, the best piece of advice I ever got was from Lauren Bouchard when we were working on home movies. He now does Bob's Burgers, but way back when in the 90s, one of the things he said to me was learn everything you can about something and then go back to the first 10% of what you learned and then take a left and just head down that way. And that's where you're going to find originality and your own voice and your own brand, and just don't look back. And I think I've always been doing that somewhat successfully, I guess. Yeah.
Coolness. And by the way, to all the people who are like, well, I'm actually working on this right now, and I'm working on this, is like, I'm going to I do want to point out one thing about Chris, like when he says he plays drums. Yeah, I play drums also, but I watched Chris play at some point, and then I started saying, okay, I've seen a drum set before. So it's like, dude, I love and hate you at the same time. Why does that beat kick so hard, you asshole? Sorry, that's my swear for the day. So it's like, but I want to say there's that, but also whatever you're doing, you just got to keep consistent. Don't give up. Even if you think, well, I'm working here, I'm working there, because someone used to be a mechanic working on Jeeps. Yeah, I remember that. So, so there you go.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, music has just always been something I've always done. And it's funny you mentioned the fact that I was a mechanic once. Little did I know how being a mechanic helps you in so many ways as an animator, because if you have a mechanical mind or you're inclined mechanically, you can figure out how things work. Whether it's on a simple 2D level or not, it's fun. Like when I animated my daughter on that tricycle so many years ago, understanding the mechanics of even just something as simple as a tricycle, that even kind of tripped me up a little bit to recreate that in 3D and animate it. But it does help when you need to animate certain things, is to know how they would work in the real world. But But yeah, I don't know. I've always, mechanics, even building drums, like all this stuff tends to overlap a lot when it comes to video editing. I love video editing and music and drums and art and music. I don't know. It all just after a while. Sometimes you have two different worlds, but sometimes when they overlap, it's bliss. Um, but yeah, to your point about staying on brand, there's some days where you don't hear from anybody through social media, and you're just sort of in a little vacuum, and you're like, okay, maybe this is it. It's over. And then some days your phone just doesn't stop. Just accept it. It's you're going to have those downtimes, and I've embraced it. Now I'm like, this is sort of now this week is kind of like a big week for just doing nothing, which means I'm going to jump on the fact that I'm going to work on my own stuff and get my own work out there and take advantage of that, because it's easy to get really super busy and then you're not visible online for a while, and people will forget. They'll kind of forget about you. So yeah, branding yourself, that's a huge thing. I never took a course on how to brand myself. I just like creating and putting it out there. And seeing, nothing's more satisfying than thinking like, oh, this could be cool. I think this is cool. I'm going to put it out there, and then seeing other people think it's cool, and just seeing the numbers climb and seeing it shared. And that to me is really, really kind of satisfying and validating as well. That quote about learning everything you can, going back to the first 10%, taking left. Yeah, that's it, man. You're walking that, knit that on a pillow if you have to. That's been like one of my mainstays. That's Lauren Bouchard who told me that. I think it might have been Tom Snyder himself, who we worked for, that mentioned it to him. And originally, I don't remember, it was too long ago, but regardless, it came from one of those guys. And the fact is, we all kind of apply that to our lives and careers, and it's really hard to be original. It really is. Sometimes you have to go live in a cave for 10 years and then start drawing, and then maybe you'll find originality, because we're bombarded by visuals all the time. So you might draw something that all of a sudden looks like something someone else did, and it's a natural thing. I actually had someone reach out to me, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and claim that I stole his ninja character because he saw it. It was it was on the cover of one of my books, one of the Flash books. It was the ninja character with the little bunny. And he said, hey, I'm pretty sure you stole that from me. And I said, yeesh. It's a generic looking enough character that I'm sure if we Googled it, we've all find very similar types of characters. But through a little bit of respectful back and forth through email, we discovered that he had my book, and that he had actually drawn it based on my book cover, because my book was published, because there's a published date in the back of it, long before he said that he developed that character. So I said, well, there you go. And he's like, and then he actually respectfully said, you know what, I'm sorry, I was wrong. So from his point of view, he was kind of inspired by something that he didn't even realize. And so that, I think for me, that it's always a good lesson learned. So like even the little chicken character I showed you, is nothing could be more simple in terms of its design. I remember when I was trying to just start with sketches for that character, I started thinking more like cow and chicken, and more outlandish looking characters, a lot more complicated in terms of the design of it. And then I started really kind of taking my time and thinking about it. I said, you know what, this character just needs to be simple. I literally drew a pear shape, and that's his body. And it wasn't about the design so much as it was about the animation and injecting that personality in the motion of it. So I found a lot of my work is very simple, but I try to bring out a bigger personality in the way they move, and the actions they take. And it's more about the story in many situations. So yeah, I don't know.
Coolness. I want to say something to. I'm in the process of probably being diagnosed with ADHD. It'll make sense in a second. So, and I'm not joking about that. But one of the things that I always have a problem with is the big C word, consistency. And with respect to, I thought about this where you're saying where you'll put something up and then all of a sudden you've got work coming in, and then it's like, yeah, you're not putting anything up. So where I've always had a problem with it, hell, if you go to my YouTube channel, it's always been feast or famine. in any projects. My side project, Marker Dude, if you want to look me up on Instagram, is my fine art side using markers. But it's like everyone's like, oh man, that's really cool. But yeah, it's like, when's the last time I actually did anything? So the one thing you need to do or consider doing is when you do have those pockets of downtime or whatever, make several things put together. And I learned this the hard way. I was one of my students was like, shout out to Corey Davis, was on. It was one of the shows that was as featuring a tattoo artist, and Corey said something about, "Oh yeah, I just finished filming this. It'll be out I think he was like in March. He was saying it was going to be out in March. It was like November or something." And so it occurred to me, I was like, wait a minute, they recorded that a while ago. And so there's nothing wrong with having a stack of things. You can tell YouTube almost everything, hell, even the summit. I could program Twitter, which I haven't done. I could program Twitter to start advertising the summit for us so we can know, oh, by the way, at this hour, this person's coming up. You can do all of those things ahead of time. You can schedule things with YouTube where it actually comes out at a later date. And it is really, really cool, especially in this day and time. The challenge, and I'm guilty as hell of this, almost swore again, guilty as hell with this, where you're doing that, you want that instant gratification. So it's like, here's everything I've done. If you have 30 comic ideas and you've drawn out your 30 comics, do not put them out in 30 minutes. No. Schedule them out for like maybe one per week. Then you can keep building on from there. And then it's like, oh, you're constantly putting something out. This summit, for example, it's not me talking to 20 people back to back in a single week. No, this thing was pre-recorded. This is one of the two pieces that we're actually doing live. But setting it up, building that following, and no one needs to know how many things you actually have on the back burner. So that way, when you do get busy, you still have that, you're still building that following. One person I'm looking forward to interviewing, 1000, this incredible artist, had a big enough following that when he said, I'm going to design a card deck, kept posting on YouTube his process of doing that, and then said, okay, we're going to do a crowdfunder. I need 10K to get this printed. So $2.8 million later, he got the deck. Yeah. One, it's an incredible deck, but talk about some inspiration and showing that constantly being consistent. He's always busy and putting stuff out there, but looking at that, it's that little thing of not doing feast or famine. Even if it's like, hey, here's a 5-second short. For those of you who are trying to do 5 and 6 minute animations, no disrespect to you trying to do that, there's a such thing as short form right now. There are people who are building millions of followers, animating stick figures. A couple of them I've actually emailed. So if you're watching this, hey, answer your email. So they built this huge following by putting out these little quick shorts of 15 seconds here and there. No disrespect, or I'm not telling you not to do these long pieces. I heard a story once, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but even if it's not true, how awesome is it? I heard a story that back in the day when they were doing the Warner Brothers cartoons. Imagine your boss walks into the studio and says, what are you guys working on? And says, okay, we're working on a Roadrunner and Coyote animation. Cool. Keep it up. Comes back the next week. What are you working on? We're doing another Roadrunner and Coyote. Cool. Keep it up. Third week. What are you working on? We're doing another Roadrunner and Coyote. I love that. Cool. Awesome. What were they actually doing? They were working those 3 weeks on What's Opera Doc. So they put all this quality into that project. Why? Because they could knock out a Roadrunner Coyote episode stupid quick. So 3 weeks spent on this huge project and then knocked out 3 Roadrunner things like in a week because it didn't take them that long. So Yeah, work on your huge juggernaut of a project, but build your audience up. I've been saying this to a lot of people, and I'm not going to call you out by name, but your initials are K and D. At least when you're in my class, so so you know who you are. I'm not telling you not to do the huge project, but work on little things to build your audience, and then go ahead and do the big thing. I think, God rest him, I think Jim Henson had Dark Crystal in his head long before the first Muppets episode came out. But he had to get a big enough following and get trusted enough to do that. Did the execs like when Dark Crystal came out? No, but he got to do his dream project. All right, I'm going to shut up because we're about at noon. So I'm going to shut up and let Chris say his final notes.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. I had no idea about What's Opera Doc. That's amazing. That totally makes sense too. And going back to some of the comments about ADHD, I'm sure I have it. I know I do. I don't know how many times I've walked into a room and forgot why I walked into it. And there's so many distractions here, especially working from home. But I find a whiteboard is very helpful in writing down lists of things I need to do that specific day. Keeps me on track. And yeah, and to your point about the bigger projects, sometimes projects just take on a life of their own production wise, and if they take time, it's for the better. Like this again, I'm going back to this project that I discovered on that hard drive of my daughter telling. It's actually a joke that she tells. It's a minute and a half long. If I actually started it and animated it back then in 2009, it definitely would have looked much different. And I think I have way more experience and can apply more and better techniques that I've learned over the years. So I think it's a better product now because I've waited. In fact, I started it a year ago, and I kept it a secret, by the way, from them. I haven't really shown them, but I actually had since shown them about a minute of it last year, and they were blown away. So anyway, it's something that I'm kind of glad I'm working on it. Sometimes I don't work on it for 3 or 4 months, and then like this week I'm working on it a lot. So it's. And because of that, because I'm taking my time, it will be a better product in the end. And it's fun too, because there's a musical soundtrack that's going on behind the scenes that I just pulled off of Adobe Stock. But I have so many musician friends and composers and producers that I presented this idea to them and said, hey, would you be willing to work on this? Maybe let's replace this set music with your own. So it's fun to bring in friends. That's the other thing. Like I don't want to work in a vacuum where it's just me doing everything, because then it's only one perspective. I hired a background artist, a great Cuban artist. I think she actually lives in California now, but she's just a perfect style. And I hired her, and she did 2 of the backgrounds, and pretty much all the other backgrounds that are simple enough for me to even to do. I'm doing them. I'm trying to emulate her style. So she's injected this cool style to the backgrounds, and I always regard backgrounds as yet another character to the story itself. So, but then bringing someone else in for the music, for an all original piece of music, I would love to have. I don't want to have all the credits be me. I want it to be someone else, and then maybe me. That just, to me, to collaborate is way more effective, and I think it makes for a better product in the end. So yeah, and ADHD minds rise up. I don't look at ADHD as a bad thing or a negative. I think it's knowing how to harness it so you can focus in on something. That can be key. Sometimes what I find too is if I use ScreenFlow to capture when I'm working, and I find that keeps me in check sometimes. Knowing that everything I'm doing is being recorded pushes me to just stay on track and keep going. And ultimately I can make a tutorial out of it when I'm done. That's the other thing too, is I know people really want to learn how to do this stuff, because on my YouTube channel, I get comments like, if I post a time lapse of showing how something was made very quickly, the comment is that, hey, it would be great if you slowed this down and actually talked through it. Da, 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 da. And having a full-time job, playing in 4 bands and it takes so much time to get to produce a tutorial. I never get to it. I've had people like literally get mad, like say, "Hey, I've waited a year for this. I'm unsubscribing. That's it. I'm done. I'm out." And they leave, and I'm like, "I'm sorry. There's only so much I can do." But yeah, trying to get focused, finish personal work, but also along the way teach people. Like I'm trying to capture even my personal projects through video, so I can actually then go back, do a voiceover, show people how I built these things, because people want to know. Seeing the final product is one thing. Some of the best things in the world, your favorite film, whatever it is, seeing the behind the scenes is almost as entertaining, if not more. So like documentaries that show, the making of Jaws or whatever, any kind of movie, even a more modern movie. I think that to me is just, I don't know, a fascinating way to learn techniques and skills of the trade. And so that's, I don't know, it's almost as much fun as it is to just create an original piece. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Awesome. Yeah, and honestly, that whole behind the scenes is the backbone of what the summit is like, oh, by the way, did you know that, how much work went into this particular thing? Or me trying to find out what went on behind the whole thing. So again, Chris, thank you again so much. You're still on mute, so don't try to talk. So thank you again so much for joining us and popping out live. I really, really appreciate it. I've got to pick your brain about some other stuff because there is a podcast I'm working on, as well as a music cover music / animated video conglomeration of artists and stuff that I got to bug you about anyway. Meanwhile, we are going to sign off and go grab some lunch here. Let's say thank you so much, Chris and Toby. That would be Tony. It's like, but yeah. So let me unmute you.
Hey, I know that was a typo because the N is right next to the B on the keyboard. No, thank you guys. Everybody in the chat, everybody who was here. Tony, thank you for having me. And let's keep the conversation going.
All right. So we're going to sign off for today. Well, not today, excuse me. For now, we're getting ready to have some, what is that called? Oh yeah, lunch. But yeah, just trying to get these last little comments in before I go. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you again, guys.
Say again.
And oh yeah, so thank you again, guys. Everyone in the chat, everyone who's watching and participating and asking questions or just commenting. That was awesome.
Coolness. All right, we're going to sign off now. Chris, you can wave because I'm not turning you back on. All right, this has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. This is part 1 of day 2. Go eat something, and we're going to be picking back up at 1. I believe Tony Grillo is coming back up at 1, and that's Eastern Standard Time. So I will see you all then. Say bye, Chris. Workbook by Tony White is no longer in print. It's actually one of the first animation books that I've ever purchased, and I still use it to this day. Even though this book is out of print, you can still get a copy. Tony White is currently running a crowdfunding campaign for his new animation education app, Drawtastic. So, you can get a digital copy of the Animator's Workbook for a small donation of $10. Grab a piece of history and bring to life the past, present, and future of animation by helping to fund the Drawtastic app. Pledge now at igg.me/@/Drawtastic. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. We're in our 5th year of running the summit, and this year the summit is going to be from October 16th to the 20th. You can sign up for the summit at signup.animationsummit.net. This event is totally free. However, I do need your help with something. This year, to help with the cost of running the summit, we're selling some merchandise from t-shirts to mugs and a couple of other items. If you can get one of these, that would really help to fund the summit. It's not mandatory, but it does help. Now, if t-shirts or mugs aren't in your budget, no worries. You can also help by sharing links to sign up for the summit. So check out our summit merchandise at shop.animationsummit.net. We have some simple summit t-shirts and mugs, as well as some naughty and humorous ones. Thanks again, and I hope to see you at the summit.